Hi there, and welcome to Dork Wars, the podcast, your galactic hub for all things Star Wars. My name's Blake, and I'm here with Wesley.
What's up, dorks?
And I'm joined by two very special guests this evening. We have Lewis.
Hi.
And Danny.
Hello there.
These two fine gentlemen have joined us this evening all the way from Great Britain. They're doing us the honor of guest starring on our podcast after we guest starred on theirs. They are from the podcast Shouting Into the Void. It is a very cool podcast where they talk about everything. And I do mean everything.
Yeah, real quick. I was going through some of you guys' older stuff, and in particular, I really like the Better Call Saul stuff.
Mm.
Oh yeah, we love Better Call Saul.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It's certainly my favorite television show of all time. Like just without, definitely.
Yeah, I got into it because of Breaking Bad, obviously, but yeah, I think they just started recording a new season. Is that right?
I think they
Yeah,
started.
I think it is coming out.
Didn't they start? I think Bob Odenkirk that went out to New Mexico to film it a couple of days ago. I don't know if they've just started filming or they're at the end. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll be here for it when it finally drops.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to tune into Shouting Into the Void.
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely going to have to watch this show then, if all of you guys like it.
It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
Probably.
It's one of the greatest TV shows of all time. You will love it.
Ooh.
Whoa, Lewis, do you work for their marketing team, Lewis?
Yes, I do.
Whoa.
It's my secret side hustle. I work for their marketing team. Yeah. I'll be sending Dork Wars an invoice for that free advertising spot.
But there is an import fee.
Yeah.
Nice.
Inside jokes, the best.
So, kind of segueing into Shouting Into the Void, Danny or Lewis, whoever wants to talk about it, both of you at the same time, who cares?
Yeah, I think both of us at the same time, clashing with each other as much as possible. I think let's
it'll
really make it
Lewis,
difficult.
it's my turn.
Yes, make the editing process as difficult as possible for Andrew.
That's right. Well, I think I'm editing, so it's going to be hard for me. So, what is Shouting Into the Void, and what is it about?
Lewis?
Well, thank you, Danny. I'll take the floor. Shouting Into the Void, we started out as a podcast about like movies and TV and video games and books and anything that we like, really, and we'll go on and talk about that and maybe have a few laughs along the way, and very quickly it devolved into two idiots rambling almost incoherently about nonsense that just happens to crop up at any given moment. And then in the last 10 minutes of the show, we remember, oh, God, yeah, we're supposed to be talking about a film today. And then we'll hurriedly talk about whatever film it happens to be at that moment in time. I'd say that's a pretty accurate description of the show, wouldn't you say so, Dan?
I would say so. I think the title is. I still think that's like our biggest achievement so far because it's
We've made
it's
60
vague
episodes.
Enough. Yeah, it's vague enough so that anything can be talked about, and if anyone complains, it's like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah, just Shouting Into the Void.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're just shouting. And I'm telling you, man, as chaotic as your description of your show is, it works. I've listened to a bunch of episodes now, and I'm telling you, I'm hooked. I am a fan of Shouting Into the Void. Very fun podcast to listen to. It's a very real, very organic podcast. There's not a ton of editing that goes on, it seems, because I was on...
That is the kindest way of saying cheap I have ever heard.
No, not at all. Well, I listened back to when we guested on your guys's, and it's like, you know what? Everything I said is in there.
Yeah.
It's very authentic, though, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Oh yeah, it's very fun to listen to. But so definitely go listen to Shouting Into the Void. Great show, great hosts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Even better name, Shouting Into the Void.
Yeah, then goes a long way. So let's jump into our Star Wars chat. These fine gentlemen did a series of episodes on each trilogy of Star Wars. So they did an original trilogy episode, they did a prequel trilogy episode, and then a sequel trilogy episode. And then they also did an interview with Wesley and myself about Star Wars, about what we thought about it. And go check out all those episodes and all the other ones as well. So we're going to ask them a few Star Wars questions here on Dork Wars, the podcast.
Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
I've never been more ready. What's the prize if I get all the answers right?
You win an all-inclusive trip to Alderaan.
I tell you what, I didn't even have be ready on my questions. No, it's cool. So, Danny or Lewis, what started your Star Wars journey, and are you hooked?
Go on, Dan. You jump in.
Okay. I started watching Star Wars when I was about 5, when my dad sat me down and watched it, and instantly I was hooked on it. I loved Darth Vader particularly. I used to dress up as Darth Vader. I used to get all the Legos and stuff like that, and I think the quintessential moment of my childhood was in the cinema for Revenge of the Sith, when you finally get what you're promised and Darth Vader's helmet goes onto Anakin's face and it's dead silent, and then you hear that iconic breath, and then you just hear me screeching at the top of my voice, "It's Darth Vader!" And I ruined everyone's cinematic experience. So
Wait, that was you?
yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty hooked on Star Wars, I would say.
That's pretty great, man. Yeah. So the question is, do you still dress up as Darth Vader?
I mean, the official
I'd say your
answer-
day-to-day wardrobe is like it contains a lot of black clothes. So
Nice.
whether you're doing it deliberately or not, you're kind of there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
got this-
very unfit, so I do a lot of heavy breathing. So I
Hey,
guess
Same,
if the shoe
same here.
fits.
That's most of the editing of our podcast is editing out Blake's breathing.
I still have a stormtrooper costume for Halloween, so it's okay if you wear Darth Vader costume.
Yeah, I'm not that tall, so I wouldn't be able to do it justice. But I would certainly have fun doing it.
So you could cosplay Stewie from the
Yes.
Family Guy Star Wars
Nice.
That's
episodes.
And I can do quite a good Stewie Griffin impression, so it would be all good. Yeah.
So there we go. Now we're planning Halloween out. That's going to be
Exactly,
cool.
that's
We got to
what's
take a
gonna
trip
happen.
over.
Definitely.
It's March, everyone. It's March.
We're hoping everything's open by Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's hoping.
So, Lewis, what was your beginning experience with Star Wars, and are you hooked?
Well, my sort of starting experience with Star Wars was when Danny said, I think we should do Star Wars for the podcast. And I naively went, yeah, all right. And that launched me into what can only be described as a nightmare fever dream, in which I watched 9 films in extremely short succession. And so my experience of Star Wars, I think, in start to finish, was, when you're having like a really good stew. Someone makes like a stew for you, and you're like, oh, I'm really enjoying these potatoes. They're like really well cooked, and these little bits of like beef, oh, they're really good too. And these little florets of broccoli, they're like a nice bit in here. And then every now and then, I'd see something in the stew that I didn't like very much. For example, I'd see Jar Jar Binks floating in my stew, and I would get very upset about that. But I would have to eat the whole bowl of stew so that I could talk about it on the podcast. So that's my experience of Star Wars. Am I hooked? Yes, I'd go for another bowl of stew. I think I would, yes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think
Wow.
it does. You know what? That's the first time I've ever heard Jar Jar Binks related to a bowl of stew. And if I see Jar Jar in my stew, I'm probably just going to throw it out.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, if I saw in the supermarket that there was like spaghetti hoops and like tins like on the shelves of like spaghetti hoops, baked beans, and then I saw that Heinz or whatever were making like tins of spaghetti hoops, but the hoops were actually in the shape of Jar Jar Binks' face. I don't think I would be able to resist buying a tin. I don't like spaghetti hoops at the best of times, but I don't think I would be able to resist buying a tin of Jar Jar Binks pasta.
Just for
I
the
think
aesthetic.
I would. Precisely. How chaotic would it be to have that be the decoration in a room, to put that on a wall?
It would be beautiful. And now that you mention it, I think they actually might have had like a Chef Boyardee here in the States, a Chef Boyardee thing that when episode 1 came, and I might just be remembering this. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old when they were advertising Phantom Menace back when it came out in '99. But there was, I mean, Star Wars was everywhere at that time. Jar Jar Binks was on potato chips with Anakin Skywalker and Sebulba from the pod racing thing. I'm almost certain there was some SpaghettiOs shaped like Jar Jar Binks back in like '99.
Fantastic. I will make it my mission in life to hunt down a tin and nail it to my wall.
It's gotta be on eBay. Gotta be.
Definitely. Someone's saying vintage, never opened. Well, I'd hope not. If it's a can of pasta from 1999, I'd hope no one's opened it to have some.
Used can of Jar Jar pasta.
Oh, Christ.
So, which side of the Force do you identify with more, and which side do you think is more powerful? Danny, let's go to you on this one first.
I probably have to go with the Sith on this one. Because I just can't get behind the whole Jedi sort of, code. The sort of cutting yourself off from emotional attachments.
No man is an island. Yeah.
Yeah. Just sort of. I'm quite an angry person, so I would find it very difficult to just restrain myself to let the light side of the Force. I would have to I want to use Sith lightning. Okay.
Who doesn't?
I was dancing around it, but that's all I want. Okay.
But you run the risk of going all sort of a strange colour and all wrinkly like Emperor
It's
Palpatine
worth it.
does.
It's worth it.
I see.
It's worth it. Yeah, it's totally worth it.
And not everyone goes like that. Dooku didn't.
That's the only cause of that weird change in appearance that I've seen is Force lightning. So I feel like I don't want to run the risk.
Yeah.
Like 1 in 5 times I get turned into a strange colour and I get all wrinkly. I don't want to run those odds, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, being on the dark side, you're going to get a limb cut off somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody got a limb cut off, or both of their legs, or burned to pieces, or burned to death, or burned near to death. The odds aren't good being a Sith Lord. So, Lewis, what side of the Force do you identify more with? And which side do you think is more powerful?
Well, I think that for the sheer reason that, a lot of the Sith are just too angry to function in a lot of ways, I think that for that reason alone, I think the Jedi are sort of more powerful. I don't know if I'd really identify with either side. I know this is a massive cop-out, but, I look at how the whole Jedi thing of, like Danny said about cutting yourself off from everybody that you love and all this sort of stuff, and I think, well, that looks a bit shit. And then I look at the Sith code of ethics,
right.
which is murder a load of kids if you feel like it. And I thought, well, I don't really want to do that either. So I'd ideally like for there to be some kind of middle ground where I can swing a lightsaber around, but also just chill out and have a nap, if that's at all possible. Can I be a chilled out Jedi? Is that all right?
That's what we call in the biz a gray Jedi.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds cool, too. That's just a cool name.
Yeah.
But I could kind of get on board. That was actually a test, and Lewis passed. You're not supposed to want to either. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. So I failed.
It's okay, Dan.
I will be accepting my certificate in a week's time.
We will keep you in class, though. We will keep you in class. Yeah, I mean, being the Jedi, it's hard to kind of get on board with the no compassion, no love, no attachments. And if you really look at the Jedi ideology, they should embrace compassion. They should embrace love. They shouldn't try to distance themselves from it. Anakin says in episode 2 when he's talking to Padme, he's talking about how the Jedi should really embrace love, how they should be love. And I think that was something that could have saved their order from plunging into the dark.
Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Wesley, what do you think? Who do you identify with?
If we're talking about power, then I think the Sith is more powerful just because of how much anger they have and just all the testosterone they have built up.
What?
Well, it's power in quick succession, isn't it? I mean, you can't be angry forever.
Eventually you're going to be like, whoa, well, that's over. I guess I'll have a nap now.
You're going to burn out,
Palpatine's been mad for like 60 years.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose he's doing well.
Yep. Palpatine's like this old cranky grandpa.
To be fair,
Yeah,
how many? Sorry, I'm cutting over you massively now, Wes. But to be fair, like, how many old people have you met that are incredibly old and incredibly cranky? Perhaps the Sith rely on that. That as you get older, you just get more furious with time. Perhaps that's the entire Sith code of ethics. That you look around you and like, oh, these teenagers wearing their jeans low. Oh, that makes me bloody angry. And then, do you know what I mean? What if that's
Force
the entire
lightning them
Sith
to death
code?
right there on the front. Right there on the front lawn.
Yes, get off my lawn, and then he force lightnings them to death. Yeah.
Unlimited power. Yeah.
Your hate has made you powerful.
See, I think Danny could do a really good Palpatine impression because Palpatine's got a Scottish accent in the original films, not in the prequels for some reason.
But in the
original,
he does.
Does he?
He does.
Wait, are you
Yeah,
talking about
I
Empire?
did not pay enough attention to
Are
these
you talking
films,
about
Christ.
Empire? Are you talking about Empire
Sorry.
Strikes Back, the original one, where it's
I
the
don't know.
original sort of-
He has so few lines in Empire Strikes Back. I can definitely tell in Return of the Jedi because he's talking about in one line he's talking about and your friends, and it's just the way he says it's very Scottish. And then I really just noticed this like a couple months ago because I was watching the prequel trilogy and I'm like, he's got a very, very pomp and circumstance, very British accent when he's like regular Palpatine, not gray and creepy looking, and then when he becomes Palpatine. It's just like a more sinister British accent, but in the original trilogy, he has more of a Scottish accent. And it's kind of funny, kind of how Princess Leia had a English accent for about 5 seconds when talking to Tarkin.
True.
So,
True. The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more systems will slip through your fingers. And then it's like, aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? It's like, wait a minute.
That was good.
Danny, that is the best impression of Princess Leia I've ever heard.
Well, I try. I've been practicing all week.
So, which era of Star Wars would you choose to live in if you could?
Ooh. Go on, Lewis.
Either one of you.
Well, okay. I feel like my philosophy in Star Wars is right. Okay, right. You see people farming things in the Star Wars universe, like even in like the Mandalorian when they're in that like swampy bit when they're like harvesting fish from the ponds or whatever the is they're doing in that village. I feel like that's the life I would want to live. So if there's a way for me to live that, like in to be honest, any era, I would be happy to live in a small village and drink spotchka and harvest fish. So I suppose it doesn't matter what era I live in? That's a terrible answer.
Lewis is copping out.
I would like to harvest
hard.
fish in the original trilogy, please. Can we make that happen?
So that is two that Lewis has pretty much just said. I'm not answering that question at all. Danny, which era of Star Wars do you think it would be cool to live in?
That's a good question. And I'm going to try and give you a good answer. So, yeah.
I would like
Lewis
to change
definitely
my
let
answer,
you down.
please.
Let
everyone.
Lewis change his answer. Yeah, give Lewis.
Can't change answers.
No, you can change it. You can change your answer.
Okay, I would like to change my answer to before the prequel trilogy, when it's kind of just a pretty chilled out situation. The Jedi Council are like running around doing stuff. Anakin hasn't like gone crazy yet. Everybody's kind of chilled out. I'd like to be in that chilled out time period. That seems pretty chilled. I'd like to do that. Live in that fancy city
Okay.
with all the flying cars. I'd like that.
Coruscant.
Yeah, that one.
Everybody's happy.
Whatever era has the pod racing, that's where I want to be. Because in the later trilogies, there's no pod racing. I don't know where it went, but I want that.
I want to live. I want to live in the time of the old Republic, like in the video games, where there's like countless sort of Jedi and countless Sith. You know, it seems more exciting. It seems a bit more sort of, there's a lot going on here, you know.
Turn the corner, you can get mugged by some dude with a red lightsaber. That'd be awesome.
Exactly. I want that opportunity for myself, you know?
Sorry, hang on, what? Turn the corner and you'd get mugged. Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah!
No, live in a village and harvest fish and drink spatchka. That's not life.
Don't be so boring.
So now
I'm not being boring, I'm being relaxed. I'm there relaxing and drinking spatchka. You're getting mugged.
So now you know why Shouting Into the Void is such a great podcast. There's so many differing opinions from only two people.
Yeah. I often disagree with myself at times.
That's very healthy. That's very healthy psyche you got there, Danny.
So Blake, which era would you live in if
Oh,
you could
that's-
choose any?
That's a tough one. I wrote the questions. I didn't write any answers. Well, to be honest, I would like to live, and I'm bringing in Legends. Okay, I'm going to bring in Legends. I would like to live after the original trilogy in the Legends books, where Luke Skywalker's getting his Jedi school, his Jedi Academy back up and running. He's got his niece and nephews, and Han and Leia are together.
Jason Solo and
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Jason Solo, Jana Solo,
That's a good
Anakin
shout.
Solo. They're off doing missions, fighting wars. It's a good time, man. And I will say those books are pretty bleak because, if I'm not mistaken, most of the Solo children die. So
Yeah, I mean you've got the
Crikey.
Yuzong Vong and all that coming in. You've got Thrawn. I'd like to
yeah.
work. I'd like to work for Thrawn or be just allowed to observe how Thrawn conducts himself in a battle. That'd be pretty cool.
see,
Yeah.
now Grant's gonna be mad he missed this. Grant on our podcast, man, he loves Grand Admiral Thrawn. That's like,
Oh, he's such a good character.
dude, like Grant's engaged right now, but I really think he would marry Grand Admiral Thrawn if he was available. But
Right.
yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. So let's move on. Favorite Force user? It can be light side, it can be dark side, it could be someone who's not even associated with the side. There's so many Force users out there in the Star Wars universe. Lewis, let's start with you, man. Who is your favorite Force user?
I think I'd have to say Obi-Wan because I just love Obi-Wan. He's great. It's aside from the fact that he's like absurdly dreamy in the prequel trilogy, and it's like that he's sort of what's the word I'm looking for? He embodies that sort of Jedi stoicism, but also kindness, and I think that is both. He's a cool guy and he's also a Force user. So you see what I'm doing? He fits the bill. I like him.
Yeah.
He's also a meme lord.
He is a meme lord. This is true.
Yeah, hello there. You know, he is the king of memes. He is so just something endearing about him. You know, you just want to, just can't help but like the guy. You know,
Plus, the Jedi
Yeah.
robes look better on him than on literally any other Jedi.
that is true.
Mace
That's
Windu,
true. I give it to
Yoda,
you.
anyone. You know?
Yeah. On our last episode, Heroes, that is my favorite hero is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I talked a lot about him. And funnily enough, you talk about how kind he is. He starts out kind of a jerk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
In episode 1, he literally calls Anakin a pathetic life form.
Oh my god.
No wonder this kid went to the dark side. I mean, there's really no question of why. I mean, everyone treated this kid like crap.
Yeah.
That was my favourite part of Phantom Menace was when Darth Maul had no idea who this child was and decided to just try and run him over. Because it seems like he's the kind of kid I would run over.
I'm telling
Sorry,
you,
I
Darth
interrupted
Maul
you then,
could have
Bob.
saved the galaxy.
He definitely
Well,
could have, but he didn't because of his terrible driving.
If he was a better driver, he would have hit the kid.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that he didn't hit the kid because Liam Neeson went, "Oh, fall on the floor."
Anakin,
So,
drop. Yeah,
Yeah, that.
That's right. But yeah, I really like Obi-Wan Kenobi, man. I think he has a really good character arc. He starts out kind of pompous and snooty in the Jedi ways, and by the end of it, he's really relaxed. He's a kind old man. The 19
Yeah.
years on Tatooine aged him very, very much.
It's a harsh life out there on Tatooine.
I'm telling you, man, those twin sons, man, will fry your skin.
Yeah.
But
It's hard to believe
Yeah.
that there's so many moisture farmers in Tatooine.
And there's
He's
there's
just been
no
getting
moisture.
like horrifically sunburned every day in those 19 years.
So, Danny, who is your favorite Force user and why?
Just before I say that, I don't understand why when Qui-Gon shouted Anakin drop, why Anakin didn't just drop his bag instead of like his whole body. Like, imagine he just dropped his bag and then it was like, no, the whole of you, all of you, you fool, you know. But I don't know. I'd probably go for Plagueis.
Ooh.
You know, I don't think we get enough of Plagueis. You know, there was like one story that we hear about him, and it was a tragedy apparently. And
I like you say that as though it's up for debate. It's like,
No, it's
it was a
because-
tragedy, apparently.
I mean, as written.
yeah, it's made very clear that it's a tragedy.
And you can't learn it from the Jedi either.
Yeah, it's not a story that the Jedi would tell you, and
Mm-mm.
I think the fact that he could resurrect the dead is something that, you know, is pretty interesting. And the fact that, like, does Palpatine know how to do that?
I think it's left ambiguous. I really
Because
do.
he said he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. So it's like, well, you know then how to do that, or is that the one thing he didn't teach you?
Apparently, it wasn't everything.
Oh.
It was Palpatine was definitely on the quest for that power, as we can see. Like even through Episode 9, he is still kicking.
Yeah.
I think through a clone body, of course, but he was always chasing that eternal or immortality, rather, and he wanted Anakin to help him do that. So I don't think he knew how to. And dude, great pick. I love Darth Plagueis. Like you said, I don't think we got enough of him. I think it would have been really cool to see like Snoke
As Plagueis,
as
yeah.
Plagueis. Yeah, I think that was a way that they could have gone that hardcore fans would have been really happy with, and then
Yeah.
people who just had seen the movies, didn't know much about like the legends and the lore, would have been like, "Oh, that's new and different," and that's something that may have saved the sequel trilogy from all of the garnered hate that it has accumulated.
Yeah. I liked see if something that I really love like comes out with something that isn't up to par with what I think it should have been or something like that, I'll sit for hours and try and reimagine everything about
Right.
it. I would have released another trilogy set in the Old Republic, and I would have built on the sort of what's his name, the big Sith Lord in the Old Republic. Is
Darth
it
Bane?
No.
Or
Is
no,
it Vitiate?
no,
Is that his name?
Darth Revan.
Yeah, him. But I mean, the old Sith Emperor. I think it is Vitiate or Tenebrae or something like that. I don't
know.
But anyway, yeah, I would
think
build
you're
it
right.
with him and have him be that guy, Darth Bane, Darth Plagueis, and I would have it all connected right up to the sequels and have it really sort of built up like that to make it look, rather than just, oh yeah, Palpatine's back,
So if there are any Disney executives listening, Danny has the perfect trilogy and story arc for your series.
I've got it.
He's got it. And we can pinpoint Dork Wars, the podcast, where it all came out if it gets big.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the Force and Force users and lightsabers and how cool it is to be a Jedi. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the non-Force users. There's a ton of those as well in the Star Wars universe, and a lot of them are really cool, interesting characters, especially in like the original trilogy. There's a lot more non-Force users than Force users. So let's come to Danny first. Who is your favorite non-Force user?
It's got to be Grievous. It's got to be Grievous. Grievous is...
I explicitly tell you no lights. No, I'm just kidding. No lightsabers. You pick a guy with 4 of them.
Okay, fine.
No, I'm just kidding. No, Grievous is fine.
Change
No,
it.
he's
I'll
great.
change it.
No,
I'm gonna
don't
I'm
change
changing
it. Don't
I'm
change it.
changing it now. It's gone. Grievous is dead.
Wow.
Shot in the
Dang it.
so uncivilized.
I killed him
It's
again.
gone.
What a jerk.
Let me think.
These are our guests.
No, just go back to Grievous. It's fine. It's fine. Now I'm bullying guys that we're guessing on our podcast. I feel horrible.
I'll go with Aura Singh. I think she's a really good character.
Who? Let me see.
Is she in the Han Solo movie?
No, she's in Clone Wars.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
Yeah, you know, she sort of takes care of Boba after Django
Right.
dies in Clone Wars, and she has that whole sort of thing with Ahsoka. She's pretty sinister.
Yeah, she really is. I think she's definitely got an edge about her, and even though she doesn't have the Force, she kind of has a killer instinct.
Yeah, I just looked her up real quick.
Is everyone? No
Yeah.
one knew who I meant.
Yeah,
No,
I
really
forgot
didn't.
all about. I forgot all about Aura
Yep.
Singh, but yeah, she's pretty cool. I like her.
Yeah, she's a good character.
All right, so over to you, Lewis. Who is your favorite non-Force user and why?
Okay, right. I've got two. We're going to go with the serious one first, and then the one that has stolen my heart second. The serious one, I'd have to go Han Solo. I think there's something weirdly endearing about the cockiness. Which I know it doesn't make sense, but there's something weirdly endearing about seeing how confident he is in his abilities, and he sort of has this redemption arc in the original trilogy. And I just really like Han Solo as a character and as a guy. And I just really enjoyed watching him on screen, basically. So that would have to be my actual serious favourite non-Force user. Did I get all those words in the right order?
I think so.
Fantastic. But to be perfectly truthful, the non-Force user that has utterly stolen my heart is BB-8. Because
Oh gosh.
that tiny little ball, it spins and screams, and is such a force of chaos in the Star Wars universe that I have never identified with anything more as just being such a chaotic, screaming mess. So I would have to say that while BB-8 has stolen my heart, Han Solo is the favourite non-Force user.
Fair enough.
So BB-8 somehow became the probably the character with the most characterization, the most emotion out of anyone in the sequel trilogy, and he was almost completely CGI. Anyway, moving on. I don't know. I hear some groans. Do you guys? Who do you guys like in the sequel trilogy better than BB-8?
That's a good.
I will say right.
Bobby Frick. Hey.
Yeah. Do you know? I think that the characters in the sequel trilogy had the potential to be really, really cool, but
Definitely.
they were just sort of, I just think they were let down by the too many cooks at the pot sort of thing. J.J. Abrams,
Definitely.
and then Rian Johnson took over, and J.J. Abrams came back and was like, "Whoa, what have you done?
Yeah.
This isn't what I was wanting at all. It's just you need to pick someone to do the full thing. You can't just leave after the first one and give it to someone else who's got a completely different idea of what a Star Wars film should be.
And funnily enough, that's like J.J. Abrams' MO is like start something, then leave it. Funnily enough, he came back to finish it, but when he got back, the whole dumpster was on fire. So
Yeah.
I do think that the characters had a lot of potential. And I will say, even though I made the joke earlier that BB-8 was the best, I really like Kylo Ren in the sequel trilogy. I think he has a pretty... Funnily enough, I hate him in the first movie. Force Awakens, I hate his character. It's one-dimensional. There's no real characterization. He's just a bad guy because his grandfather was a bad guy. It sucked. I do not care for Last Jedi as a movie. I do like Kylo Ren's development in The Last Jedi, though. You see him kill his master. It's pretty epic. You see him ascend to like the supreme leader of the First Order, and then in the last movie he has this whole redemption arc. And you can really see that whole redemption arc over all 3 films, where Darth Vader kind of becomes good in the last 10 minutes of Return of the Jedi. Kylo Ren has the light pulling at him all the time through all the movies, and that's something we really don't see.
What I would really like is like a sort of... I thought that we're going to do it when I watched The Last Jedi for the first time. I thought like Kylo Ren was finally just going to toss away the sort of like binary sort of Jedi and Sith and just sort of say, no, I'm fighting for me and I'll use whatever Force abilities are necessary to get what I want. Like, I think that's a really interesting take on it, on a Force user that we haven't seen before, and I think they could have done something with that, but they, he had a redemption arc, which is, we've seen that before, and it was but
Right.
I just, they could have shifted it up a wee bit.
Yeah, as far as the status quo, they stuck to the status quo.
Yeah.
So, this is a question for both of you. You can say this at the same time if you want. It's probably the same answer. How many times did you want to throw yourself out of a window while watching Jar Jar Binks on screen?
Ooh.
There are not enough windows in the world to allow me to complete that task. Lewis?
Well, I think, as I said, I think Jar Jar Binks made up a frustrating amount of the stew that was my Star Wars experience. And if I had my choice, I would take the little floating pieces of Jar Jar Binks and I would fling them through a window. So as many pieces of Jar Jar Binks as is in a pot of stew. 1 million? 2 million? Too many.
Yeah.
1, 2?
How many parts per million is Jar Jar Binks in the stew?
Someone's chopped him very fine, It's a good knife that guy has.
Look, I'm
just
probably...
got this-
What are we even talking about now?
I don't know, but you've given me this image of being at like a sushi bar, and it's like a guy's making beautiful rolls of sushi and chopping up Jar Jar Binks and like pushing them in amongst the sushi rice.
He doesn't deserve all that.
Can I try the Binks banquet, please?
2 Jar Jar rolls to go, please. Yeah, that'd be pretty tough, man. I think Jar Jar is such a polarizing character. We all know what I think of Jar Jar Binks. If you listen to my guest spot on Shouting Into the Void, another shameless plug, go listen to that episode or their whole series. It's really good. If you listen to my guest spot on there, I display what I think of Jar Jar Binks. And we are going to do a Darth Jar Jar episode here on Dork Wars, a podcast. We've been teasing it for a long time. We've been teasing it, man. We've been teasing it for a long time, and we haven't given the fans what they want yet. So, Wesley, I really don't know which...
May the
What?
4th.
May the 4th. Oh! You heard it here first, guys. May the 4th episode. We're releasing one on May the 4th. I don't care what day it is. And it's going to be Darth Jar Jar. Thank you, Wesley.
Oh my god! Wow.
That was some quick decision making. It takes me and Danny like a week of emailing back and forth, but that was
Yeah, that's why we get nothing done. That's like...
Well, we never come up with stuff this fast or this quick. Thank you, Wesley. That's great, man. That's great. I'm not going to ask you what you think of Jar Jar. We're going to talk about that on May the 4th, apparently. So, why do you think Star Wars fans hate Star Wars movies the most? I know this is something that you guys talked about on your podcast, and it really seems that the most hated comments, the most hate comes from people who claim to love Star Wars, and it seems that arbitrary fans, people who are just kind of casual fans, they watch Star Wars and are either neither here or there, they love it, but people who really hate the films are people who really love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's because...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's because people that love Star Wars know what Star Wars can be. I think if there's anything I've sort of learned while speaking to both of you, Blake and Wes, is that you speak a lot about like obscure pieces of media that I've never even heard of. But in those pieces of media, you tell me about stories that are 1,000,000 times better than what I've seen in the trilogies. And I'm thinking, well, if that's how good Star Wars can be, I can imagine how frustrating it must be to go to a cinema, sit down, and there's all this excited atmosphere, and then the film was a 10th or a 100th of what you know Star Wars can be. You know?
Yeah, I totally get that. And there's so much Legends material out there, pre-Disney canon, that is magnificent, is fantastic. And Danny, of course, knows this. He seems to be pretty up on the Star Wars lore here, there, and everywhere. But the Legends stories hold a special place in my heart, and really is what kept me into Star Wars so long and so hard. Every single character has a story in the Star Wars universe, and Legends seem to flesh all that out.
Definitely.
Yeah, and for me, I had no idea that there was just all this confliction among Star Wars fans. I tend to stay away from social media, and I don't see the comment section or anything like that, but apparently that place can be very toxic and just full of controversies. So here I am living in my bubble thinking that all Star Wars fans are on the same page and think alike, like we all dislike Jar Jar Binks or we all like Chewie. But it was very surprising to me to learn about all the turmoil prevalent amongst the fans.
Yeah, I think the issue is that Star Wars has a fan base that is so massive that you're just gonna get people who are just fundamentally different. They come from different places. They believe different things. So everyone has a sort of conceptual idea in their head of what Star Wars is and what it should be. So you're obviously going to get butt heads, but like some of the, I think there's a sizable minority that take it far too seriously. You know, it's like I love Star Wars and I always have. And I always will, you know, and they'll release films that I don't like, there'll be comics that I don't like, but I would never sort of take it to a place where I would want to see, like, other people who enjoy different parts of it, like, you know, hurt or anything like that, you know, there's different sort of voices in it, there's different sort of ideas that are expressed, and I think I think everyone has their own little corner of it, you know, you've got Legends, you've got canon, there's something for everyone in it, and trying to sort of make it all one thing it's just not going to work because there's just too many people and too many differences, you know.
Well said.
Yeah, very well said. I can get on board with that. I don't know if I would ever take Star Wars so seriously that I'd try to beat somebody up over it.
Yeah.
Except maybe Wesley, but I don't need enough reason to fight Wesley.
Because you hate me.
No, I do not hate Wesley. I love you, man. I mean, come on.
Love you too, bro.
Come on. All right, hey, let's get back to the episode. So I kind of stole this one from Danny and Lewis when they originally had us on their show. They sent us a list of questions, and we ended up not using this one. So I stole it. Shameless stealing.
Enough.
That's how it works.
So, why do you think Jabba the Hutt looks the way that he does?
Ooh.
I have the perfect answer to this question, and I will be accepting zero criticism.
Let's hear it.
I think that Jabba the Hutt came to a very sensible realization. Or if not Jabba the Hutt, then Jabba the Hutt's distant ancestors who were elected or forced their way into being the tyrant leaders of this planet. I think that Jabba the Hutt's ancestors, or Jabba the Hutt, realized, now that I am king, queen, monarch, whatever, I don't really need legs. I can cut these off myself.
Oh, no.
And I can just tell people to bring me things. So I think Jabba, at some point in his life, will have just sliced off his legs with the realization, I can just say, hey, bring me a glass of blue milk from Luke Skywalker's planet. And then they will bring him a glass of blue milk. So I think he decided to chop off his own legs.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I actually had a very, very deep commentary for this question about how I think Jabba really represents... Check this out. I think Jabba represents greed and what that looks like in American society and in the society of the world, really. And that's a really, really deep answer to that, but I really, really like Lewis's answer a lot better.
Well,
and
you haven't heard.
Do we really
heard my brain teaser theory?
Oh, here it comes! Come on, Danny, give it to us.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
What you got?
I'm ready.
I'm ready for it.
An ancestor of Jabba
Oh my god.
was a monster from Monsters Inc. who wound up on Tatooine. There you go.
You know,
And just-
but that's totally plausible though. They're all in the same universe now. They're all under Disney's umbrella.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I presume there is a wooden door somewhere
We're going to see
on Jabba's
Jabba.
planet.
We're going to see Jabba in WandaVision pretty soon. So he's going to show up.
Be in the
I didn't know
background
that I
of all
could-
these people doing some actual acting. Then in the background, there's this enormous green slug just
I
jabbering
know.
nonsense.
I've got an even better theory. Oh, it's just the Matrix is parted, and it's just came to me in a fever. Okay, see when the monsters in Monsters Inc. finally abandon scaring kids and try and make kids laugh. Jabba couldn't make kids laugh because of how ugly he was. So he thought, you know what? Screw this. I'm away. I'm gonna find somewhere, and he found Tatooine, and
He defected to Tatooine.
and he became a gangster. That's what happened.
Space gangster.
2319.
I like it.
We have a 2319.
Oh my gosh! So if we're sitting here talking about the relevance of how Jabba looks and what does that means for society of the Earth and why is that connected to Monsters Inc. and why is that connected to evolution? And George Lucas was probably like, you know what? He should just be a slug creature. We don't have a slug creature. Slug creature. It's going to be Jabba.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We can read into it all day, but George Lucas probably was just like, yeah, that looks cool. Let's just do that.
He looks like a space gangster. So
Yeah.
We're coming up on my final question I have for you guys, and this one's kind of contingent against or amongst Star Wars fans. Do you think that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one?
Deep.
I'm going to answer in the only way I know how, which is confused. Yeah, I didn't realize this was a contentious topic. Isn't he got like a million little bugs in him? That's the whole point, right?
The midichlorians.
Yeah, he's got like a million little bugs. So, is there other people with more bugs? What's
So
going
I'll tell
on?
you what. I'll tell you what, Lewis. There's actually we really don't know where the prophecy came from, like in canon now. In
There's
Legends,
a prophecy.
There's
Yeah,
a prophecy.
that's the whole point.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was to
okay.
bring balance to the Force.
Oh,
That's right.
you were the chosen one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, yep. You're
As
supposed
I say,
to,
it's the fever dream
the
of Stew. It's all washing over me again. Yep.
So I really can't blame you for watching all 9 movies in such a short time. It was probably hard for stuff to sink in. But there was a prophecy. We don't know exactly where it came from in canon now. In Legends, I can't remember exactly where it came from, but it had a source. And there's some people that's like, well, the Jedi didn't even really believe the trilogy. They didn't believe the prophecy. They were in the trilogy. They didn't believe the prophecy. And there's some people that say that Luke was the chosen one because he actually egged Vader on to kill Emperor Palpatine. He's the one that actually rid the world of the Sith. And there's others who believe that balance means there's equal number of Sith and Jedi, and Anakin did that by defecting to the Sith and killing all the other Jedi. So there's
Okay,
like a
so-
million
yeah.
different answers.
So it's your classic
not really
sort of
clear.
the prophecy isn't very clear type situation.
Yeah.
Well, and it's honestly non-existent. I don't even know if we get an actual readout of the prophecy verbatim.
Okay.
You know?
I've never understood that, how like the Jedi are like, finally balance to the Force when there's no Sith. Like what?
It's just us.
You know, but isn't Rey the chosen one by default? Because
See?
Anakin didn't kill Palpatine in canon anyway.
Good point.
You know,
Right.
you can choose what you can, believe what you want to believe. But if we're going by canon, then technically it was Rey that did it. And by the way, I've got to just bring this up because it's been nitpicking at me. Palpatine's whole mission was to get Rey to kill him so that he would pass into her, and then she kills him, and he doesn't pass into her. So I don't know what
Listen,
because she used
The light side. The light is so strong. It is so strong.
I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I think he was meant to be. I think he was meant to be the chosen one, but then other stuff happens, I guess.
Yeah, I really do not like the prophecy through line through the prequel trilogy. Of course, we really don't hear about it through the original. I don't even know if it was contemplated during the original trilogy. They say that George Lucas had ideas for the prequel. I don't know, but it just seems like lazy writing to me. It seems like they threw it in there and then did nothing with it. It's not really clear. There's not like a true readout of what the prophecy actually says. There's Jedi who don't believe in it. And that could be a really interesting topic if they would have focused a little bit more on it.
Yeah, if they made
don't.
if they made like Anakin like a sort of godlike figure, and dark Jedi were like around him, sort of treating him as this some sort of god child, and that's how he became. You know, he fell to the dark side or something like that. That could have been really interesting. But like,
And it seems like the
problem with a chosen one is like there is nowhere to go from there, you know? Because if you bring balance to the Force, it's like it's not going to be at balance forever, is it? Because then the story wouldn't go on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be darkness somewhere, and it's always going to manifest in the Force somewhere. I mean, there's no way to have true balance. That's what I believe, anyway.
I agree.
Maybe the lesson is that everybody in Star Wars just needs to go to therapy. And then that's the only way we'll actually have balance in the Force. Is if Palpatine's like lying on a couch, just like spouting all the things that have happened to him.
Yeah,
and then they blew my Death Star up again.
Yeah, like in Robot Chicken, you know, it could be like Palpatine and Robot Chicken.
I love Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Yo, Vader, how's my favorite Sith Lord? What do you mean they blew up the Death Star?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
My favorite quote is like, just build another one. Yeah, real original. Who's gonna pay for that? You got an ATM in that torso light bright?
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. But like we're saying, the whole prophecy through line just seemed like it was shoehorned in, and there's no fulfillment. It's just a problem for me. What do you think about it, Wesley? Before we wrap up,
I don't really have much to add. Y'all did a good job covering everything.
well, that was very anticlimactic. And so with that is another episode of Dork Wars, the podcast. I'd like to extend a very big thank you to our friends across the pond, Danny and Lewis, for being on the podcast. You guys got any closing statements?
Not off the top of my head. Thank you for having us on your podcast. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Where can we find y'all?
We have link trees. If you go to your browser, such as Google Chrome or Firefox, you can type in linktr.ee/ for me it's Lewis_Brindley, for Danny it's O'Hiram, for the podcast it's Shouting Into the Void, and you'll find links to all of the podcast, our social media, our merch store, Patreon, all that sort of good stuff.
Yep.
And you can go and have a look there. Go and take a cheeky look.
Definitely, because once you look, you'll regret searching it.
Yep. It's like a car crash you can't look away from. That's what our content is like.
So their whole mission is, we're so bad, you gotta join to see what we'll do next.
Exactly.
You have to join to see how we'll destroy our careers next.
But it's not true. These guys are so great. I really love listening to them, and I hope you guys hop over to Shouting Into the Void and listen to some of their episodes as well. And with that, we appreciate you for joining us for another episode of Dork Wars, the podcast. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.
Thank you for supporting Dork Wars, the podcast. You can check us out on Facebook.com/Dork Wars, the podcast. And if you would like to join in on the discussion or maybe suggest topics for us to discuss, please do so by joining our Discord community or sending us an email at dorkwarspodcast@gmail.com.
This has been a
Makeout session with Jabba the Hutt.
production